Okay, we're ready to go.
Okay, thank you. Hey everyone, my name is Paul, I'm the General Government and the clerk has confirmed that we have quorum, so I'd like to now call meeting number 14 to order and welcome everybody. This meeting is being run using FX technology. Since members and staff by video conference, because we're meeting remotely, I'm asking for everyone's patience with any delays and technical issues. Members of the public can observe the meeting on YouTube. I would like to request that staff keep their video turned off unless they need to speak or answer questions. This will make it easier for me as chair and for those watching on YouTube to observe the meeting as everyone participates in the debate on each item and during the votes. I would also ask that all members and staff keep their microphones on mute unless you also need to answer a question or speak. If members do wish to speak on an item, please make sure your video is on and raise your hand or unmute your mic and indicate your intention to speak, and I will create the speakers list. When voting, I'd like to ask that members make sure your video is turned on and raise your hands to indicate your vote. Members, I'd like to remind you that although we're participating remotely, you must still submit your motions in writing to the clerk. The clerk staff are available by email at gglc@toronto.ca. Although we're in different locations and meeting remotely today, the committee would like to acknowledge that the land we're meeting on is the traditional territories of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty Number 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. At this point, I'd like to ask if there's any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Seeing none, I need a motion to confirm the minutes of our last meeting of June 2nd, 2020.
So moved.
Councillor is moving confirmation of the minutes. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, everyone. We have 25 items on the agenda this morning. Before we review the agenda, I do need to add another item to the agenda for election of vice chair, which is currently vacant. If nobody has any issues with that, we could deal with that item first, or we can defer it to the next meeting if you like. It's really up to the will of the committee.
Fine with it.
Sorry?
I'm fine with it.
Okay. Does anybody have any interest in standing for vice chair, or would they like to nominate someone?
I'll take the job unless someone else wants it.
Mr. Chair, just a procedural matter. You need to actually have a motion to add it to the agenda and then proceed. Thank you.
I'll move a motion to add the item to the agenda. All in favor?
Sorry, I didn't have my mic on. I think we should defer it just because there will be, I think there's still legal matters, so it's not, I don't know if it's definite that the councillor won't be back.
Yeah, I'm fine with deferring it. Anybody else like to speak to it? All right, so Councillor Leon, you're moving a motion to defer till the next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor of the motion? That carries. So now we will review the agenda. There's two speakers listed. And item number 1 is 55 Yonge Street, designation of a portion of the property used by the Toronto Transit Commission as a municipal capital facility. Any holds on that? Somebody like to move it?
So moved.
Councillor Holiday is moving the recommendations in number 1. All in favor? Carried. Number 2 is 2233 Sheppard Avenue West, designation of a portion of the property used by the Toronto Transit Commission as a municipal capital facility. Are there any holds on that? Somebody like to move the recommendations?
I'll move it.
Councillor Filion, all in favor of the recommendations in number 2? Carried. Number 3 is Toronto Public Library lease agreement and municipal capital facility designation at 85 Ellesmere Road in Scarborough in Ward 21. Any holds? Somebody like to move the recommendations?
I'll move it.
Councillor Filion, all in favor? Carried. Number 4 is Councillors' Constituency Offices designation of portions of the property used as municipal capital facilities in wards 5, 8, 23, and 25. Would you like to move the recommendations? Anybody?
Sure, I'll move them. I think Francis is moving them, but I'll move them.
Oh, okay, sorry. Councillor Nunziata's moving the recommendations. All in favor? Carried. Number 5 is Toronto Fire Department Superannuation and Benefit Funding Valuation Report as of December 31st, 2019. If nobody wants to hold that, I'm going to hold it. I have some questions of staff. Number 6 is progress on the merger of the City of Toronto's pre-owners pension plans. Somebody like to move the recommendations? Councillor Matlow, all in favor of the recommendations? Carried. Number 7, sorry. Number 7 is the 2019 accounts receivable write-off report. Anybody like to move that?
So moved.
Councillor Holiday's moving the recommendations on number 7. All in favor? Carried. Number 8 is the Administrative Penalty Tribunal Chair's 2019 annual report. Any holds on that? Somebody like to move it? Councillor Matlow?
I'll move it.
Councillor Nunziata's moving it. All in favor? Carried. Number 9.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
my name is Paul Somerville. I'm the chair of the Administrative Penalty Tribunal. You have just adopted the annual report. With your permission, I'd like to leave the meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate you attending this morning. Have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Number 9 is 500 Birchmount Road temporary easement of a portion of the property to be used by the Toronto Public Library for construction staging. I'd like to move that. Councillor Matlow? All in favor? Carried. Number 10 is expropriation of a portion of 5795 Yonge Street for public street purposes in Ward.
I have a quick amendment, Mr. Chair, which we could either do now or I could hold it, whichever you prefer.
I'm fine if you want to do it now. We can have the amendment put on the screen.
And while you're doing that, I'll explain it. It's just a certain amount of money is guaranteed to cover the expropriation. Staff feel it is more than enough, and they're probably right, but just in case it unexpectedly costs more than we expect, then it would come back to this committee so that we could then decide if we wanted to require the applicant to cover the additional cost.
Okay, all right. Does anybody have any questions of the mover? Being none, the motion is on the screen. All in favor of the motion? That carries. Item as amended. All in favor? And that carries. Item number 11 is acquisition of 2950 and 2970 Lakeshore Boulevard West. There's a confidential attachment. Somebody like to move the recommendations? Councillor Filion?
Sorry, I didn't pay enough attention to this to move it.
Okay.
I don't need to hold it, but
All right, I'll move the recommendations in number 11. All in favor? Carried. Number 12, early acquisition of the Toronto Portlands Company lands for the approved Portlands flood protection projects. Any holds, or can I have a mover on the recommendations?
I'll move it.
Councillor Nunziata is moving the recommendations in number 12. All in favor? Carried. Number 13 is initiation of the expropriation of 480 Coxwell Avenue. Any holds, or someone to move the recommendations?
I'll move it.
Councillor Fillion's moving the recommendations. All in favor? Carried. Number 13 passes. Number 14, Algonquin Island Bridge rehabilitation. Councillor Matlow is moving the recommendations in number 14. All in favor? Carried. Number 15 is the Queensway Excavating and Landscaping Limited reconsideration of disqualification from city contracts for the fair wage policy non-compliance. And we do have 2 speakers on this item. So I'm going to hold that one in my name. Number 16 is a non-competitive contract for FCA Canada Incorporated for original equipment manufacturer OEM parts and services through an authorized dealer network.
Happy to move it, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Holiday's moving the recommendations in number 16. All in favor? Carried.
And with a congratulations to Fleet Services and Procurement for putting that together. I understand it's a new form of agreement that's never been done before.
Thank you, Councillor, and I'm sure staff appreciates your compliments as well. Number 17, non-competitive contract for the provision of proprietary original equipment manufacturer, OEM parts and services from GC Duke Equipment Limited. Any holds on this item? Would somebody like to move the recommendations?
I'll move it.
Councillor Nunziata is moving the recommendations in number 17. All in favor? Carried. Number 18 is a non-competitive contract for the provision of proprietary parts and service from the Zamboni Company Limited. Anybody like to help keep the ice
Happy
rink
to move it,
running?
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Holiday. All in favor of the recommendations number 18? Carried. Number 19 is a non-competitive contract with Moore Canada Corporation for the provision of renewal forms and parking permits.
I'll hold that. I just have a couple of questions.
Okay. Councillor Fillion is holding number 19. Number 20, non-competitive contract for the provision of ransomware resilience framework and governance with KPMG LLP.
Happy to move it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Holiday. Councillor Holiday is moving the recommendations in number 20. All in favor? Carried. Number 21 is extension of a non-competitive contract for fire and life safety vendors due to the COVID-19 emergency. Somebody like to move that? Councillor
I'll
Matlow?
move it.
Councillor Nunziata? All in favor? Carried. Number 21 passes. Number 22, amendment to the purchase order for the design and contract administration of the new Northeast Scarborough Community Recreation Center and Child Care Center in Ward 25. Councillor Matlow is moving the recommendations on that. Thank you, Councillor Matlow. All in favor? Carried. And the last item on our agenda is amendment to purchase order number 604-9734 for municipal shelter renovations at 4117 Lawrence Avenue East. And that's in my ward. I'm going to move the recommendations for that. In favor? Carried. All right, we do have item number 24 is a request to amend purchase order number 604-1647 with Kronos Canadian Systems Incorporated for upgrades to the time attendance and scheduling system.
Happy to move, Mr. Chair.
Okay, sorry, Councillor Fillion.
Hold for questions.
Okay, Councillor Fillion's holding number 24. Number 25, whoops, sorry, is an amendment to blanket contract number 470208880 issued to Claims Pro LP for insurance adjusting services. Any holds on number 25? Would you like to move the recommendations?
Sure, I'll move them.
Thank you for the recommendation number 25. All in favor? Carried. And that are all the items on our agenda. So I think at this point we are going to go back to number 15. We'll start with number 15, the Queensway Excavating and Landscaping Limited reconsider disqualification from city contracts for fair wage policy non-compliance. And we have for this. Carol, are you good with starting with number 15?
I believe the deputants are ready, Mr. Chair, and they are on the line together.
Okay. So just the documents, thank you for coming to the General Government and Licensing Committee meeting this week. You each have 5 minutes to speak on the item. At the end of your 5 minutes, each member of the committee has up to 5 minutes to ask you questions individually. And then after both of you have spoken, we have what's called, we bring it back into committee where we can ask questions of staff on this item if so needed. And the first deputy, you can start whenever you're ready.
Am I heard clearly?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, councillors, managers, and city staff. Mike Reina, my husband, became self-employed immediately upon entering Canada in 1976 and began working for the City of Toronto. From being the only person working until the last winter contract we had, which ended in 2014-15, we employed 45 men and women doing the required job. The reputation we built with Toronto managers was the knowledge that Queensway provides the best possible service and can be counted on at all times. Clarifications need to be addressed in order for all here to understand what transpired 2 years ago. In 2016, all the contractors, every single one involved with providing backhoe emergency services to Toronto, were found to be non-compliant. Contractors who provide more than one operator with machine must bid on the low end in order to be competitive and win the contract. As a result, all contractors were deemed non-compliant with the exception of one owner-operator. In 2017, a new RFQ was issued for this same function for backhoes with operators. We had always been transparent with our operators and we asked them all for their input. We won this contract with $92.44 per hour. At this hourly rate, we would pay our operators $62 per hour and $67 the following year. The remaining sum contributed to repair and maintenance, fuel, insurance, and whatever was left was for the 4 members of our family working. In January 1st, 2018, the FWO requested our payroll records for all of 2017. We provided them with details of the payroll, inclusive of the benefits, pension, vacation pay, along with all the tax submissions. We offered FWO on numerous times that we would sit down with them to go over every hour, but our offer was never requested. When FWO completed their investigation, they did not provide details, but stated we owed our operators almost $400,000. Given the amount and the information provided, it was no surprise that we were disqualified with both the Government Management Committee and City Council. In October 2019, undergoing a judicial review, a panel of 3 judges unanimously declared their findings that Queensway was unfairly dealt with and the declared non-compliance be squashed. The Fair Wage Office was established to ensure that there was an even work field provided to the city by both union and non-union companies. Number 1, no collective agreements between workers and employers, but allowed for union companies. If union workers are paid less than what is established rate by the Fair Wage Office, it is accepted as part of collective agreement. Number 2, no banking of hours, but those are also allowed for union companies. Number 3, the Fair Wage Office does not deal with complaints from operators working for union companies. The city withheld almost $400,000 of money Queensway was owed for the work we completed. It cost us $100,000 in legal fees in order to receive our money, and in the end, the settlement was not $400,000, but $2,000. This has taken a toll on our company, reputation, financial standing, not to mention the stress we had to endure that made our own health suffer. In conclusion, our company had provided the City of Toronto with 42 years of excellent service. We had thought we would deserve far more consideration than had been thrown at us by a judgment based on bias and a distaste for non-union corporations. We wonder if the committees would have recommended the contract cancelled and disqualification had they known it was only $2,000. And that is the end. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Adalia. Are there any questions for the deputy? Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for coming in this morning, or deputing this morning. Next, I have Edith Julia Rajna.
Yes, I'm here. Just one second. You hear me okay? We're just adjusting over here. Thank you for your patience.
Oh, not a problem. Take your time.
Okay, so good morning to everyone on the Government Council. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. Right after my mother, I know she followed very thoroughly with the information as we would like to provide. My family has endured so much difficulty due to this situation. As taxpayers of this beautiful city of Toronto, we had a very difficult learning curve through this situation. We emailed every member of the City Council our circumstance. We even arranged meetings with members that we could be fairly heard. No one out of the 50 councillors, including the mayor, replied to our emails, and the councillors we met with did not speak up for us during the City Council. Family did the resources to defend ourselves against the Fair Wage Office's ruling to pursue a formal judicial review, then the city would have taken our hard-earned money and just handed it over. The discrepancy with our calculations was massive. We respectfully understand the gravity of the numbers. However, they were incorrect. Queensway Excavating and Landscaping Limited paid our employees the rate stipulated and approved by the Fair Wage Office always. The Fair Wage Office, on their own power, decided that the employees were to be paid amounts that they did not even work for. We were misrepresented to you and the city as improperly paying our operators. Following this, we were also publicly humiliated with the blacklist of disqualifications for a period of 2 years now. And an article was also published in the Daily Commercial News smearing our company's name, making it impossible to find other work in or around the city of Toronto, where we have been based for decades. My question is, now what? We were unanimously found to be not guilty of the accusations of your Fair Wage Department. In the end, we did nothing wrong. Under the guideline of the Fair Wage ban, my brother and I were also prevented and blocked from working separately or individually in the city of Toronto because of our familial relation. How can we prevent this and create a truly fair assessment system that allows family businesses and privately owned companies a chance to work in your beautiful city? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Are there any questions of the applicant? Being none, thank you very much. I appreciate you both taking the time to bring your perspective this morning. We're now going to bring it into committee. Are there any questions of staff on this item? Seeing no questions for staff on this item, would anybody like to speak to this item? Would someone like to move the recommendations in the report? Councillor Nunziata is moving the recommendations in the report.
Mr. Chair, just a procedural matter. There's also a recommendation in report 15A from staff.
Oh, okay.
And that one should be adopted on this item as well, if you choose.
Okay. Thank you, Carol. Can you move that as well, Councillor Nunziata? So Councillor Nunziata is moving the recommendations, including the one in 15A. All in favor? And that carries. And our next item we're going to go back to is number 3. Sorry, I have to get to number 3.
I believe it's number 5, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Carol. I need more coffee this morning, or to clean up my handwriting. Number 5 is the Toronto Fire Department Superannuation and Benefit Fund Funding Valuation Report as at December 31st, 2019, which I held. Before I ask my questions, does anybody else have questions on this report? Seeing none, my question to staff, and I want to thank staff for writing this and bringing this forward. This is valuation report covers a 3-year period. I just have some concerns around. I'd like to see some additional information added to this report, and it mentions the Buck report, which gives. So I'm just going to go through and ask. I'm looking for clarification on if this can be provided by City Council or if we would have to defer this until our next meeting. So what I'm looking for, the Buck report, it's got a PDF summary in the report. Is it possible to get the entire Buck report with all of the financial details?
This is Hitam Bahad, the Director of Pension Payroll and Employee Benefits. Yeah, so we will look into that and providing the full report to Council.
Okay, so I'm looking for that for Council. I'm also looking for the 2018 and 2019 annual financial statements that were mentioned in the report for greater clarity and transparency, if we can have those added to this report as well.
Sure, we will do that.
Okay, and also could we have a link in the report to the actual bylaw that covers this fund?
We will do that as well.
All right. And then my last question, Hatim, in the report, it mentioned the cost for managing the fund is $936,758. Could I also get some clarity for council on what costs and fees were included in that number?
Sure, we'll do that as well.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Those are really all my questions around this. Anybody other have any questions on this item? Seeing none, so I'm going to move the recommendations. Thank you, Hatim. So I'll look forward to that information for City Council.
Mr. Chair.
Moving the recommendation.
Sorry,
Yes.
it's Carol here. I just
Carol.
wanted to clarify, the recommendation in the report is that the General Government and Licensing Committee receive the information. And I thought I heard you say you wanted it to go up to City Council, so you would just need to amend it if that's the case.
Okay. So can we defer this item to the next meeting, Carol, and have that information brought back then instead of it going to council?
So Councillor, the impact of delaying it to the next meeting is that we will not be able to disperse the COLA to the fire pensioners before this report goes to council.
Well, Carol, can I have it sent to council then, just so I can get that information made publicly and it doesn't hold up the disbursements?
Yes, we can do a quick amendment for you just to forward the item up to City Council.
Okay. Is that fine, Hatim?
Yes, so we will work on adding the items you mentioned, Mr. Chair, and we will submit the report again.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
And just to clarify, Mr. Chair, the amendment is just to forward to council, and the items to be provided, is that an undertaking, or do you want that as part of the amendment?
Could I have that as part of the amendment?
Yeah, if you can hold it down so that we can just get the proper wording for you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Carol. We're going to hold that item, and then we're going to do number 9, which is a non-competitive contract with Moore Canada Corporation for the provision of renewal forms and parking permits. Councillor Filion, you held that one? You have questions?
Thank you. Just had a few questions. I'm not clear on what the product is. Is it just a form that we're buying from this company?
Through you, the product is actually called a speedy mailer. And part of the challenge, Councillor, is that it is a patented mailer that goes out to all permit parking holders twice a year when we renew that program. And we've been looking to reissue this as an RFP, a competitive process, because as you'll note in the report, it's actually been sole sourced for quite some time because of the patent on this product. We are in the process of coming up with a review and doing an assessment of a parking strategy. And we're working very closely with IT on some other options for providing this service. And so we'll be looking to put this out as a competitive bid for 2022 once we revise the process to support.
Yes, thank you. No, I did read that in the report. I'm just not sure again what the product is. Is it a piece of paper? What is it?
I can perhaps have either Dave or Andre get into a little bit more detail, but I believe it's a sticker and a mailer that includes your parking permit that you actually put in your vehicle. Is that correct, Dave?
Yes. So through the chair, it's basically a sticker that goes in the windshield of individual permit holders. So the mailing, I don't know if you're familiar with what comes from the Ministry of Transportation for a license plate sticker, but it's very similar. So you get a document, you peel off the sides of it, and you can peel off the sticker from that document and put it into your car.
So if I have my numbers right in the report, these stickers, I guess, cost us about $2.50 each, something like that.
I'd have to do the math, but something like that, I think. Let's see here.
It looked like roughly 26,000 of them for $60,000, roughly.
Yep.
I'm just ballparking.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So how did we get in a situation where we can only use this one particular sticker that seems to be, I know this is a small amount in the whole scheme of things, but why are we paying this much for a sticker and this is the only company we can get them from?
It's an excellent question, Councillor, and one that I've been asking staff as well. And so part of the challenge is we've had the same permit parking process for quite some time. And so as we were in the process of doing a competitive bid when we determined that we were in fact going to take a deeper dive look at our permit parking program. And we believe there's better technology. And so we're working very closely with Josie Scholey's folks in IT to come up with perhaps a rethink of how we do this. And we believe that we can use technology, but we have to get through that process and we have to make sure that we have the right tools in place. So that's why we've asked to extend this for the last time, to keep the current process in place and to use the same sticker package that we've used previously. So I don't think it's ideal for sure, but I feel like it's the only best option we have to get us through the end of this year until we have a new strategy and a new technology.
And just last question. So this is the only company who provides these stickers?
Correct. It's a patented product.
And sorry, then second last question. And why is it we have to use this product?
I'll give that one to Dave.
Well, I think it's partly just familiarity with the process as far as the residents go. So people are used to this system, and we have done an industry scan to see if anybody else has a sticker system like this that we could use, and we weren't able to find anything that was similar.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
Okay.
Yep, Dave, your audience.
Councillor Nunziata, questions?
Yep.
Francis, I think you're on mute still. There you go.
Sorry. Is that better?
These are for street permits, correct?
Through the chair, they're for parking permits. Permit parking, on-street permit parking. Yep.
Right. So is the process now that we mail out the application forms for renewal? Is that what we do now, or is most of it done online?
The bulk of the renewals are done online. They're still available to be mailed, I believe. Dave will correct me if I'm wrong, but the actual sticker itself does get mailed. Twice a year, it gets mailed in 2 batches.
Right, so they get mailed, and so there's a cost for the mail, right? Sending out all so the stickers, do the stickers have to be renewed every year?
I believe
yes, they're typically, through the chair, it's typically every 6 months. People have the option of renewing once a year, but most people do it for a 6-month period at a time.
So then when they renew, they get a new sticker?
Correct. Yeah, regardless of whether every renewal period has a different color sticker. So every 6 months, no matter whether you paid for 1 year or 6 months, you still get a new sticker in the mail.
You still get it, and so as far as the enforcement, so for the enforcement end of it, they would have to clarify if the sticker is renewed, or my concern is that people will not renew it and they'll have the sticker, correct?
So part of the reason for having it be distinct every 6 months, it's easily identifiable by parking enforcement to know which color it is, so that they can actually enforce the permit.
Yes.
Visual inspection, right?
So visually, they'll have to check to ensure that it's an up-to-date sticker, correct?
Correct.
Oh, okay. Does this apply to front yard parking as well?
No.
No, through the chair, that's a different process.
Oh, okay. But front yard parking, they're mailed out the renewals every year, or how is the front yard parking?
They're through the chair. They are mailed out once a year for the renewals, but there's a plaque that's supposed to be affixed to an area near the front yard parking pad, so that staff know that it's a legitimate space.
So you still do the plaques then? Okay, I wasn't sure about that because I've seen a lot that don't have the plaques, but they're legal. They have paid
Right.
their fees, so we continue to do the plaques then.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nunziata. Other questions of staff by members of the committee? Seeing none, Councillor Filion, you held this item. Did you want to speak or move the recommendations?
Well, I'll speak
With
for
recommendations?
15 seconds. I'm not going to move it. In fact, I don't think I'll vote for it. It's not a large amount of money, so I'm not going to make a big deal about it, but it's just one of those things that seems like the city should have been on top of a lot earlier. And even though it's a small amount, it seems to be, the products would seem to be overpriced and we're stuck with one supplier. So, but I don't have a better solution at this point.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Councillor Filion. Other speakers on this item? Would somebody like to move the recommendation?
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Nunziata. Councillor Nunziata is moving the recommendations in number 19. All in favor? Carried. Number 19 passes. Number 24 is request to amend the order number 604-647, Corona's Canadian Systems Incorporated, for upgrades to the time and attendance system. This is by Councillor Filion. Councillor, do you have questions of staff on this item?
Thank you. I think I have a similar concern. There was sort of two contradictory statements in the staff report, and I'm not sure which is the case. Are we going with this company because they're the only ones who have the expertise, or are we going with this company because we're stuck using their product and can't get out of it?
Through the chair, we're going with Kronos because they're the ones who built the customized time and attendance system for the city. Because of the major upgrade, we are working with them at this time, and the intent is to shadow them so we can transition part of that skill set and the work they do to the city. So we're going with them right now just because of the complexity and the major upgrade that needs to occur for now, based on the customized environment that was built when this went live a few years ago.
So we're not, if I understand your answer, then we're not legally obligated to use them. We're using them because we don't know how to do it ourselves and need to use them for that reason?
Through the chair, that would be correct, to mitigate risk.
And can you elaborate on that, to mitigate risk?
Yes. So there was a lot of customization that was done in this product that was built. So based on the fact that the upgrade is quite significant in terms of the business for the time and attendance, the ability to make those changes, we decided that for this period that not to provide any risk in terms of the time and attendance systems to the various divisions that depend on this. We wanted to go for now with the organization who helps customize it so heavily. And that's why we're going with Kronos directly for this particular major upgrade.
Okay, and then when we come out the other side of that, what are our plans?
Through the chair, part of this upgrade is to ensure that we transition standards and knowledge internally to the city. So therefore, your questions alluding to the fact that we are not in a position where we are 100% relying on Kronos. That's the plan. We transition. And also we look at other groups out there who can do this work, so therefore we are not beholden to just Kronos. So that's the strategy that we're focused on. It's a hybrid. Try to bring some of the knowledge inside ourselves, so we're going to shadow them through this process and ensure that we can look at other options as well, and we're not always going to Kronos for the professional service. That's the strategy that we're having through this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, questions, please.
Councillor Holiday, questions of staff?
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you to Councillor Fillion for holding this item because I did have similar questions to that when I read the report. I wonder through you to, I think it's Lawrence, you know, this is something that businesses see often, and I've seen this before at the City of Toronto, where we choose a vendor for software somewhere at some point, and we are then at the behest of that vendor because it's very, very proprietary, the software, and we have to pay whatever rate it is that they ask for. And in the case of this report, it looks like it's a very important upgrade. It's the transition from one technology that's no longer supported to another. I guess my first question is, given that it's a component of the software that Kronos built into the software as part of their design, and I think it's the component is no longer supported by the vendor, are they reasonable with their price, or are we paying some sort of a premium because it was somebody else's design? Or is it more along the lines of labor to make the change? And I wonder if you could give some comfort to the committee that, you know, we're paying something within a fair market rate, or are we paying a premium because there is only one vendor for this?
Through the chair, thank you for the question, Councillor. It's really professional services and the amount of the subject matter experts from Kronos who definitely built the proprietary customization. I think when we look at the rates in terms of that respect, I would say the estimates based on what needs to occur in the industry standards within that area. Our preference is not to rely on Kronos to do this upgrade. So if I actually look at the actual labor, there is a whole series of upgrades that need to occur. I think that we have to just be extremely diligent in ensuring that we transition that knowledge. Thereby, we're not in this position that whatever the rates they're charging, that we are beholden. So I would say that it's professional services. Part of the agreement we have is to provide us software and generally technology that we should be able to maintain ourselves. But it's the labor rate that is, I think it's just the amount of people that we need to ensure that this upgrade is done.
So is Kronos the only situation where you have a link to a particular vendor? And if not, do you have a broader plan on how to disentangle us from these types of situations? Because my sense is perhaps the same as some of my fellow committee members, that, you know, we get put into these situations where we have to pay whatever they say. And do you have a plan to get us out of that?
Through the chair, we do have a plan. So on the first piece is that I think this is one of the most customized. I'm sure there's legacy environments that is heavily customized. The plan is that, you know, it's twofold. The first plan is that as an organization, when you build these areas, you ensure that it's not as customized. So you want it more what we call configurable. It satisfies most of the functionality out of the box. That's not always possible. So you go very heavy customized. If you choose to go that customized, you build a strategy where you have a managed services, which means is that you're going to the market and you're having the competition bid to be able to provide that service at the market competitive rate. That way, whoever customizes your piece is not necessarily the only provider who will come and provide you support. So as a division and in a city, we're moving more to a managed services. We're actually looking at that module for some of our other platforms, which balances the fact that if we don't do this in-house, we're creating a competitive landscape that we go to the best price through the RFP process to provide us support. So that's the long-term strategy. We are not there today. I will be transparent. We are working towards that, but that is the strategy to look at for these customized solutions, provide a managed services right off from when the contractual agreement is set.
So my last question, Mr. Chair, you know, this committee traditionally digs into these sole source procurements for very good reasons, right? They raise questions when we read the reports, and whether we ask the questions here or at the time of the reading of the report, off camera. Would you say that over time, we should see less of these types of sole sources for the reasons that you provided, that by design from the procurement and by strategy with respect to how you're dealing with the vendors around knowledge transfer that you talked about a little bit earlier, we can see less, and when they do come, we can challenge them more with you, or understand that there'll be fewer in between. So, can you give the committee comfort that you're working on it so that these types of things don't have to come to us?
Through the chair, absolutely. I think what we're looking since Q4 2019 at the transformation of the Technology Services Division, we are looking at the overall enterprise and how we do not just procure, but the skill sets we require currently and the way the industry is providing that. That due diligence will help us in terms of ensure that we're not seeing these heavy customized areas, and we're not essentially beholden. So that's the strategy, and I can certainly give some comfort that we're taking a very stringent look. I can assure the committee that when we actually looked at this, there were a lot of internal questions within the division, very similar to why do we have to do this, the risk that was placed. So I think culturally we're shifting that way, and it's certainly my intent that come into this committee that we reduce these situations going forward in terms of such a heavy customization approach. That would be my comment through the chair.
And maybe one really quick one. Without going into all the details, would you say that this system, like many others, has a backup plan? So if we had to part ways with Kronos, and it may not be ideal, nor something that we would just do, but we would be fine. We would find a way to make it work.
Through the chair, yes, we do have a backup plan. Right now it would be manual. It's not ideal. But part of also a greater component is that we're looking at aspects of the system within Kronos and looking with what are some of those areas that as we go forward in our modernization, we will be able to transition to certain other technologies. We haven't got there yet, but from a business continuation, we do have a backup plan to ensure that the businesses continue to function to service.
Chair. Thank you, Lawrence.
Mr. Chair, I had a broader question of purchasing, if that's possible.
On this item?
Well, it's springing from this item.
Okay, sure. Councillor Fillion?
Thank you. So how do we factor this issue into our procurement, where we perhaps get a good deal on a product, but then get stuck with some long-term commitment to using a certain company and kind of not being able to get competitive rates on that then?
Well, through the chair, and Lawrence alluded to some of the plans, it starts at thinking through the requirements of what we're looking for in the RFP, so that we can actually design the RFP in a way that we're trying to make sure that it's open as possible, that we're not doing customization, and that we're trying to find and establish products that are not necessarily niche wherever we can. Obviously, there might be exceptions depending on our services that we offer, but we have to do that in the planning stage of the procurement before we do the RFP, to think, what is the long-term view on this? What's the and Lawrence knows this well, what's the how much change in the technology is going to happen over the next few years? How do we think about that to make sure that we're ready for things that might alter? And sometimes for some of our platforms, we're looking for longer term contracts for maybe the subscription services, but then for professional services, making sure that's open to allow others to come in and help configure a new service being added to it. So our CRM is a good example where, we have the platform from Salesforce, but not customization, but adding on new services, we can use multiple different service providers or systems integrators to make that work.
Sure, and I didn't just mean on this item. I'm thinking of another board I was on where the board entered into a long-term contract with a company for a product which became somewhat obsolete and had to be upgraded, and the only people who could upgrade it were the people we'd bought the item from. So we were with both an obsolete product and having to pay the people who'd sold it to us to fix it. So it's kind of a broader question of how do we get out of that, getting a deal on the printer and then having to pay through the nose for the cartridges type of arrangement.
Through the chair again, whether it's for IT products or for others, it's a planning. So, earlier you adopted a few reports with respect to OEM parts. And I know Fleet is working on, when they go buy new vehicles, that they're thinking through the longer term life cycle of the vehicle so that we can establish whether we need to do separate contracts for non-competitive contracts to support the equipment. So we have to think long term through the whole plan, and then we also have to think through because things happen. So, product can become obsolete during the course of a term. Well, how can we pivot to change course, and maybe we have to go do another procurement to get ourselves out of the situation. So we have to be mindful of the fact that the world changes, and we have to find ways to react to that and try to ensure that we are not letting it happen and then realizing now we're stuck. So it's a constant loop of evaluating what we're doing with the contract and trying to make changes as we go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Questions of staff on this? Seeing none, I do need somebody to move the recommendations.
I can move it, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Councillor Holiday's moving the recommendations on number 24. All in favor? Carried. Our last item is number 5. I do have a motion to move on that. Number 5 is the Toronto Fire Department Superannuation and Benefit Fund Funding Valuation Report as of December 31st, 2019. Carol, thank you for putting the motion on the screen. I want to thank staff for all the work that they've done on this report to date. And the motion I'm moving certainly in no means is criticism or trying criticism of the work that's being done. It's simply I'm trying to make sure that we consistently meet the highest standard for reporting for all of our pension plans. I think it's equally important for our committee that we receive the audited financial statement of the fire fund. This is a valuation report that covers 3 years with the appropriate annualized investment management and actual reports the benefit committee is using for the regulatory filing with the CRA and the FSRA as outlined in the report. The Buck report is, as always, it's been very concise, but I would like to prefer that the evaluation reports continue to come to the committee within the material, as has been the practice in the past. And I think that this motion covers all of that. So I ask for everybody's support. And does anybody have any questions on my motion? Seeing none. So the amendment is on the screen. All in favor? Carried. Item as amended. All in favor? Carried. And I believe that concludes all the items on our agenda of business this morning. So I need a motion to adjourn. Anybody? Councillor Filion, motion to adjourn. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to the deputants. Thank you to all the staff for meeting virtually again. And I hope everybody has a great week and you and your family stay safe and well. Thank you very much.